Behold the mighty dinosaur, famous in prehistoric lore, not only for his weight and strength, but for his intellectual length. You will observe by these remains the creature had 2 sets of brains. Oh, gaze upon this model beast, defunct 10 million years at least.
This is a dinosaur, a stegosaurus, and a little stegi. They're a hand puppet and a finger puppet. And the finger puppet hatches from an egg that is inside the larger dinosaur.
Would you like to hear a good dinosaur joke? Okay, how do you make a strawberry shake? Show it to a dinosaur.
People of all ages buy dinosaurs. I think children become fascinated by a monster that no longer exists when they're grappling with the larger questions. And some adults start getting interested early and stay interested all their lives.
Well, I love dinosaurs because they are mysterious, because they're strong, and because it's easy to imagine that they're very gentle creatures. We know that many of them were gentle animals, relatively speaking, and a lot of boys who have frogs for pets know that frogs don't usually kill people. And so there's this dual thing about dinosaurs. They're both strong, mighty creatures. No bully in the world could ever beat up a dinosaur, and so it's fun to think that you can identify with a dinosaur. This is a book called The Jawbreaker's Alphabet by Eunice and Janet Teachins, and this has incredibly interesting pictures of dinosaurs. They're somewhat fanciful. Some of the favorite books of mine are foreign language books, and of all the foreign language books, the Japanese books are probably the most interesting. They have a real fascination with dinosaurs, probably exceeding our own, and they go all out to provide all kinds of information in a form that's very palatable and easy to get at. That is, if you happen to read Japanese, and I can't read a word of it. One of my favorite American books is a multimedia book called Digging for Dinosaurs, put out about 25 years ago. It had a set of slides, and it also had a 45 RPM record of who else but Walter Cronkite telling you all about dinosaurs. And I don't know anybody who could tell about dinosaurs as well as old Walter. Ever since I started collecting seriously about 10 years ago, I've been sending out secret vibrations that have infected artistic people all over the world into becoming fascinated with dinosaurs. And I take no credit for this. It's just something that I couldn't stop doing.
Okay, then we're just going to start reading?
Yes, I would say take Uncle Dino and start reading a poem.
Would you like to hear a poem today? All right, let's read a little poem. This is Beholding the Dinosaur by Bert Leston Taylor. Behold the mighty dinosaur, famous in prehistoric lore, not only for his weight and strength, but for his intellectual length. You will observe by these remains the creature had 2 sets of brains. Oh, gaze upon this model beast, defunct 10 million years at least. That's from 1911. That's one of the great poems of the American language.
Just a second, you can't open it. Let's repeat the poem.
3,
Okay.
2, 1.
This is a poem by Bert Leston Taylor called The Dinosaur. Behold the mighty dinosaur, famous in prehistoric lore, not only for his weight and strength, but for his intellectual length. You will observe by these remains the creature had 2 sets of brains. Oh, gaze upon this model beast, defunct 10 million years at least. It's a wonderful poem.
Dean.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's so fascinating about dinosaurs?
Well, I love dinosaurs because they are mysterious, because they're strong, and because it's easy to imagine that they're very gentle creatures. We know that many of them were gentle animals, relatively speaking, and a lot of boys who have Frogs for pets know that frogs don't usually kill people. And so there's this dual thing about dinosaurs. They're both strong, mighty creatures. No bully in the world could ever beat up a dinosaur, and so it's fun to think that you can identify with a dinosaur. And what does that mean? You have to teach me your symbols.
Just simply
Stop talking.
Give us, take a breath.
Take a break. Okay. To comprehend the profundities I'm elucidating. Yeah.
Further on.
Yes.
Yes. Are you still rolling?
Yes.
Okay, good. There's a huge, in the meantime, a huge line of dinosaur merchandise. There are dinosaurs and products. You have a big collection. Let's start with the books. Would you just show us what you have there and what categories they're in? So.
Yeah, my books fall into several categories. I have nonfiction, including children's books and adult books. I have dinosaur fiction. Dinosaur fiction includes not only science fiction, but fiction about paleontologists. I have a book by Margaret Atwood, which is kind of a feminist novel about a group of women in Canada, one of whom is a paleontologist, and she has wonderful fantasies about dinosaurs and how they lived and what they were like.
Could you go through the books now?
Yeah, sure. Let me show you a few of my books. This is a typical boys' book. What was that beep? I don't. Oh, that's his clock. Oh, okay. I thought that was a machine telling me to shut up. This is a typical boys' book from about the 1930s called The Land of Monsters, and I can't hold it up, do I?
No, you don't.
Okay. The Land of Monsters by Harold N. Sherman is a typical boy's adventure story about a boy whose uncle is a paleontologist, and he goes out west and finds a wonderful Tyrannosaurus skeleton, and some evil banker tries to steal his land so that he can claim discovery of the Tyrannosaurus, and some cowpokes team up and rescue the boy from the evil banker. It's a wonderful story. This is a great book. It's a parody or a pastiche of Alice in Wonderland. It's called Wonders in Monsterland by E.D. Cumming. And I don't know very many people who know about this book, but those who do seem to covet it with great passion. I've owned as many as 3 copies of this at one time. I currently own 2. I gave my worst copy to my best friend. This is a book called Dinny and Danny by Louis Slobodkin, who is one of America's greatest children's illustrators. And this is a book I have particular fondness for because I remember reading it as a child and getting goosebumps, thinking that a cave boy could have made friends with dinosaurs. Of course, we know now that they did make friends with dinosaurs. This is a book called The Jawbreaker's Alphabet by Eunice and Janet Teachins, and this has incredibly interesting pictures of dinosaurs. They're somewhat fanciful. I learned about this book from reading a book of book reviews of children's books, and the book reviewer said that this book should not be shown to children, to too many children, because it might frighten them.
Question in between.
Yeah.
When you go searching or hunting for dinosaur literature,
Yeah.
which are your favorite spots? Where do you find?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You can find interesting dinosaur books all over. Of course, these days all you have to do is walk into any bookstore and you'll see many books on dinosaurs in the children's book section, in the nature book section for adults. They come out all the time. The books that I love especially are the books that I read as a child, and of course they're a little harder to find. But here in Manhattan there are about 100 used bookstores, and I hit each one of them at least once a year. And so I'm able to find quite a lot of rarities that way. I also correspond with 300 different book dealers around the world, and they find me things that I wouldn't have known about otherwise. My main problem is that there are no bibliographies of dinosaur books of the scale in which I collect, and so I'm, like other collectors, I have to make my own. I'm working on a dinosaur bibliography now that will contain all of the books in my collection, plus books I've heard about which I don't have yet, and hopefully this will help me find the rest of the books, because I'll be sending these out to book dealers and they'll realize that I'm a serious collector.
Let's continue with the books.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Are you the director or the producer?
I'm more or less both.
No. Okay, here's a book called Abbey in the Gobi, and this book came out shortly after Roy Chapman Andrews went to the Gobi Desert and found some dinosaur eggs. And this is a rather fanciful story about a brontosaurus who lived in the Gobi Desert and his adventures. And the great thing about this book is the wonderful illustrations. Very hard book to find, and again, it's in no bibliographies. I also have some foreign language books, and probably the best of the foreign language collection are the Japanese books, because the Japanese have a wonderful fascination and appreciation for monstrous animals. Here's a book. Of course, I can't pronounce the titles of any of them because I don't know Japanese, unfortunately. I wish I did. But the artwork is uniformly superb, much better than the artwork in American books, because they not only care about the actual look of the animals, but they also have a feel for the history of paleontological art. They actually show the different ways that animals were drawn over history. Here's the book, an Italian book on dinosaurs, and the wonderful thing about this one is that the illustrator had a lot of imagination in the way he showed the different animals in different poses. He has a picture, for instance, of a pteranodon struggling in midair with a torn wing, and I don't think anybody else has had the guts to try to draw something like that, and it looks rather realistic too. It looks like that's probably what it looked like if a pteranodon collided or had some kind of struggle in flight. And he also shows a triceratops in the pose of the way a cow would sit in a field on all fours, and it's very realistic, and it's a pretty interesting book. One of my favorite American books is a multimedia book called Digging for Dinosaurs, put out about 25 years ago. It had a set of slides, and it also had a 45 RPM record narrating the actual book. And what you'd do is you'd show each slide, and as each slide came on, Walter Cronkite would narrate the slide and tell you what was going on. And it has in the background some wonderful music by Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring, which was used in Fantasia. And it's really will give goosebumps to any true dinosaur-biliac. This is a wonderful book that was just published called Dinosaurs, Mammoths, and Cavemen, and it's a biography and illustrated history of the work of Charles R. Knight, who is America's premier paleontological artist, and probably that's true in terms of the world also. And this has more color illustrations of his work than any other book. The strangest book I have in my collection is a book called Nebula to Man. It's also the heaviest, probably. And it's hundreds of pages of a single poem, a narrative poem. It's a rhyming poem, and it tells the history of life on Earth in all the different geological ages. It's just an amazing book. It's amazing to think that somebody would actually sit down and write the history of the Earth in poetry, and yet he did it. This is done by Henry R. Knipe, and this is a signed copy. This is also rather rare. The rarity in books is a strange thing, because just because a book is rare doesn't mean that it's hard to get if you want it, or that it's going to be expensive. I got this for about $8, and yet to me it would be worth $500 if nothing, if anything. The illustrations in this book are very interesting also because they're full of misconceptions of how the animals must have lived, based on what paleontologists believed in 1905. And then finally, some of the more interesting things that I have are the pulps from the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, and these pulps like thrilling wonder stories and amazing stories always showed dinosaurs. I mean, aside from spaceships and monsters, the most popular icon of the time was a dinosaur, men fighting with dinosaurs, bringing dinosaurs back, or else going in time machines, going back to the dinosaurs. People just love dinosaurs, and of course Arthur Conan Doyle was the first one to tap into that in his novel The Lost World, which is a wonderful novel and a classic, and very few people have succeeded in attaining that level of dinosaur mania.
Dean,
Yeah.
for how many years are you now seriously collecting that, and how many items do you think you have in your collection now?
How many what do I have?
Items.
Items. Oh.
Including books.
Well, a magazine a reporter interviewed me about 3 or 4 years ago, and I said that I'd spent about $10,000 on my collection. I don't know if that's terribly accurate. I probably spent about 15 or 20 by now. I have hundreds of books, about 1,000. Last time I did inventory, it was about 1,001 books on dinosaurs alone. I have hundreds of children's books. I have dinosaur fiction. I have books on the history of paleontology. But in addition to books, I have rubber stamps, postage stamps, postcards, glassware, dinosaur clothing, T-shirts with pictures of dinosaurs on them. I invent dinosaur limericks. I collect dinosaur poetry. I collect dinosaur jokes. Would you like to hear a good dinosaur joke? Okay. How do you make a strawberry shake? Show it to a dinosaur. See, you didn't want me to say that, but I did anyway. And I also collect dinosaur people. I have a lot of dinosaur friends. As a matter of fact, I have a computerized listing of about 500 dinosaur people. And of course, a dinosaur person is defined as anybody who is willing to write to me or talk to me about their interest in dinosaurs. And they're all over the world. There's many in Japan.